you got to get the taxes paid. And in all fairness, Mr. Williams has about a 99% collection rate. So there's no problem there with getting the taxes in, and you got to get them the way you can get them, as long as it's done fairly. I don't have a problem.
Thank you. Ron Melton, same question about the booting or towing of vehicles belonging to delinquent taxpayers.
I am the guy that sends the boot file to the contractor. I'm that guy. And I'll tell you, it's an emotional issue. We have had every situation you might imagine when we boot cars. We've had pregnant women on the Walmart parking lot. It's 110 degrees. I've had your mother out there with her oxygen bottle. I've had people going to the doctor, children going to whatever, trying to pick them up from school. It is an emotional issue, but we follow a step-by-step process in our distress collection activity. We start with the first bill, and I'm talking personal property now, your vehicle tax. We start with the first bill, we then have a final notice. We go through several steps of distress collection before we get to the final step of the booting and seizing of vehicles. Unfortunately, it's a necessary evil sometimes, but we do give everyone the opportunity to pay that bill in a timely manner. We even set up payment arrangements with you. But unfortunately, we do have to seize vehicles sometimes, and that will probably continue, unfortunately. Thank you.
Paige Cherry, the same question about booting and towing vehicles belonging to delinquent taxpayers.
Yeah, I think the booting ought to be a last resort, absolutely, because the person who's getting their car booted is part of the persons who can least afford it. It's probably the only means of transportation to get to work, to get their babies to daycare, or get to school. So part of my liaison program, be reaching out to them to try to set up something, to find a way before we get to that. If it becomes absolutely necessary, yes, but it shouldn't be a part of, I wouldn't want to be a part of the regular, everyday routine that we just go out every day looking for cars to boot. First, we ought to try to work with people, find out what the issues are, put up a payment plan, and if we can work something out before it, because let's face it, you got to pay the taxes, get the boot off, and by that time, somebody might have lost a job. We've heard all the stories in City Hall, but I lost my job because I couldn't get there because my car was booted. Yeah, I've heard those stories before. So that would be the absolute last resort to boot somebody's car. Thank you.
All right, thank you. Candidates, that's all of the prepared questions. We'll go to audience questions in just a moment, but before we do that, you have 3 minutes each to make a closing statement, and we'll start with you, Elizabeth Simmons.
Thank you very much. Ladies and gentlemen, this election comes down to trust. Who do you trust to accept and invest billions, with a B, of your dollars over the next 4 years? I encourage you to come join me 3 weeks from tonight on the Carrie B, August 17th at 5:30 p.m. to 7:30 p.m. The tour boat will be docked at the foot of High Street. She's not sailing. So come and hear more about my platform. Have something good to eat, something cold to drink. This is going to be an important election about the future of this city and how your dollars, my dollars, are handled. It's critically important that you elect a treasurer that you can trust, that you believe in, and that you believe. I have served you as a public servant for many years. I ask you to continue that trust in me as your treasurer for the city of Portsmouth on November 7th. Thank you.
Ron Melton.
Thank you. I have been endorsed by the incumbent, Mr. James Williams. he has said that I am the most worthy candidate. What I'd like to do is leave you with this one thought. When you go to vote November the 7th, remember, you are actually hiring for this position at that time. When you walk in that voting booth, when you make your mark or you click the switch, and you want to hire the most qualified person for this position, and I honestly believe the most qualified position or person for this position is me. I've done the job. I can do the job. I have the education, qualifications, and the experience it takes to be the next treasurer. Thank you so much for your time tonight. I appreciate it.
Paige Cherry, if you would please.
You want someone for this job who can do it right now. Not someone who's got to figure it out. I've managed millions of dollars every day, have done billions of dollars in 1 year. Why can I do it the first day? I was an Army officer. You go to a new location, you don't have, you do this in 3 years, you don't have 4 years to figure it out. I never had that time to figure it out. But I manage people right now who do the job, who do the work that they do in the treasurer's office. They take the money in, they make the purchases, they send out the checks. So I can do that right now. So I have to go in and learn it, I have to go in and figure it out. I manage financial management specialists, I manage contract specialists, I do it every day. So there's no learning curve. You want someone who can go in and do it right now, who has the money. The big numbers don't scare me because I see them every day, and I've seen them in the last 25 years. As opposed to, no offense, Ron, but you wouldn't have made a good Army officer, because if it took you 3 years to figure it out, your 2 would have been over before you got there. So I can do the job now. I've been doing the job. You've seen my work on council. You've seen my financial acumen. You don't have to question whether I can do it. You know it. You just have to give me the credit and give me that vote on November 7th. Thank you.
All right, candidates, thank you very much. And now comes the fun part of the forum. This is where audience members get to ask a question. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Someone will come to you with a microphone. If you don't wish to be taped, please indicate that at the very beginning. So the other thing about this is there's no time limits. I will ask you to ask questions like we did in radio, bright, brief, and relevant. I will exercise moderator's privilege if you go too long or you're pontificating. This is an exercise to ask a question and get an answer. So we have a question over here. If we could, yes, sir. If you'd like to start. Thank you.
Hello?
There you go.
I'd like to revisit the very first question. Our schools were embroiled in a fiscal misconduct situation that resulted in a grand jury investigation. Our city is sitting on somewhere in the neighborhood, I believe, of $675 million of debt. We're leveraged somewhere 70–75% of our debt limit. Credentials mean a lot, but they mean nothing if you don't use them. Mr. Cherry, in particular, I'd like to direct this question to you. Your explanation about the email sounds a whole lot like the dog ate my homework. If you're not competent enough to manage a single, simple calendar date, what other proof do you have to offer to us that you can make the treasurer's office run better and more efficiently?
Ms. Carroll, I was competent enough to process $1.3 billion worth of contracts for the federal government in 1 year. I'm competent enough to manage $23 million for them on a daily basis right now. It's part of the $400 million budget. I'm competent enough to manage people bi-coastal. So I'm more than competent to do this job, more than qualified. There's no one probably in this room who has never had a misstep. I had one. I admit it. Yes, I did. But my life, my whole life of service, has been about accomplishments and making things happen, particularly in resource management. manpower, acquisition, contracting, and financing. All the things that it takes to make this office run efficiently. That's why I'm going to do the job.
All right, any other questions? Question over here. There's a microphone to your left, sir.
Mr. Milton, I'd like to ask you what kind of audits the city treasurer participates in. What kind of knowledge is required to be effective in such an audit, and why do you think that you have that knowledge?
Well, every year, we have a state income tax audit. We also have several audits. Every year we have an audit to balance the books, make sure that our money is correct. I have sat in on a couple of these audits. I can't say that I'm an expert on this, because we bring outside auditors in, of course, particularly for the state income tax side. And then we have, again, another outside audit come in for our books. I think that's the extent of my answer for you on that.
Okay, question over here.
Mine's more of a comment. I was notified a week ago about this meeting tonight, and when I questioned the person I was talking to on the phone, I don't know the person's name, I asked who the candidates were. They told me it was Elizabeth Simmons and Mr. Page Sherry, and there was a third candidate, but they didn't know who it was. And I thought that was kind of ironic, because the third candidate has been working in that office for over 10 years, and they didn't know who it was. So I guess he's the other guy that he's got my support, because he's been doing it for 10 years at least. And everybody else up there has said that this is a well-oiled machine, and it's 99% bringing in the appropriate money that they're supposed to be bringing in. And the present city treasurer also, I think, is going to back the other guy. So that's my only comment.
All right, are there any other questions? Any questions? Right here, sorry. Microphone's coming to you now. Yes, ma'am.
This is for Mr. Cherry. Good evening, Mr. Cherry. You mentioned that as city treasurer, one of your responsibilities would be to invest the taxpayers' money wisely. Can you give an example of how you would do that?
Yes, you know, I have the good fortune to serve on the City Municipal Finance Commission and the Finance Commission. Matter of fact, I served with Mr. Bruce Lalonde when he was chair. And part of that job in the commission was to advise the treasurer on the investment of our monies. Didn't always go as well as we would like, but the treasurer decided last year or so to finally take the advice that we tried to give, 12 years ago, maybe, Bruce? And we made $450,000. Imagine if we had been doing that for the last 10, 12 years. We could have targeted that money for schools, for educational programs, for other city programs that we wanted to have. And that's what and to have that money diversified to the right portfolio. And we have some fine financial institutions right here in Portsmouth that were founded in Portsmouth that are not a big part of the financial investment picture. That's what I would do. Diversify that money, make sure a lot of that money turns over in Portsmouth, and target it, if I could get the city council to agree with it, target that for those things that we really want to do, we need to do, but we just don't have the funds to do. You know, I run another organization called the Prince Hart Virginia, and I've been on that finance committee there, the investment committee, for the last 10 years. We use a local firm called Scottsfield and Springfield. There, I was able to lead them to, just with the interest on that money, to buy a fine piece of property in Kilmarnock, Virginia, that we're now using for youth programs in that area. So those are the kind of things we're going to do. And I have that expertise. I've been doing it for a while, and I would bring that to the treasurer's office and enhance it. And maybe next year we can even have even more money and target it for some of those programs that we really need to make happen here. Thank you.
Would either of you like to chime in on that same question?
I want to answer that question for you about the investments. Right now, Mr. Williams, we have an investment program right now where we invest in long-term and short-term CDs through the banks that we work with, Wells Fargo, Town Bank. We also invest overnight in the liquid governmental investment pool, which is something that's offered to treasurers throughout the state. And we, right now, are at a 5-year high in our investment income. So I just wanted to add that for you. Thank you.
Question up here. Yes, sir.
My question is, I've heard you say tonight that you've been dealing with billions of dollars of taxpayers' money, government money. What are you gonna, do you feel like you're gonna have a problem transitioning from you being given $1 billion to manage those funds to going out and collecting them?
No, sir, I don't. The numbers are the numbers, whether you receive them, on my current job, we receive some, and we pay some. I do it now, so it won't be a big transition. You know, and as a matter of fact, I'm about, at this time of year, for those who work for the federal government, Mr. Lalonde will know this, you come to a point where you, towards the end of the year, you have to do sweeps, where you have to take money, and it's part of this, it's a similar process. So no, it won't be a major adjustment at all. Thank you.
Question down here.
Hi, this question is for Elizabeth Simmis. Mrs. Simmis, you had spoken before about improving technology in the treasurer's office. Could you elaborate on that, and do you think that financially it's a realistic goal for our city?